welcome back to Let's Get Real. I am your host, Michael Sharkey, along with Spanish. Let's Get Real is a place for guys to figure out whatever it is they need to figure out. But it's worth saying out loud that even what Courtney said last break is that, when we talk about showing up as not our true selves, I mean, that's just a person thing. That's a human experience issue. However, I will say this, that the whole heart of Let's Get Real for guys is because oftentimes it's guys who have a little bit more trouble coming to understand like the depth of what that means. Whereas women, even Courtney with how she expressed it last break, is maybe just a little more attuned to the masks that we wear and how we deal with stuff. Again, our phone number, 1-800-771-1025. Mike is on hold right now. So, Mike, I see a note here that maybe you're drinking a little too much and you might need some support there. What's up, buddy?
Sharky, I tell you, man, Spanish has really shared recently that he's actually been seeking out to go be with friends where there's no drinking and he's not going to be influenced and stuff like that. And I think that's important, to go to like a dry location. That's helpful. That's important.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it truly was. It was a decision that I had to make. But with that decision, there are some negatives because I feared, and this is one of my people-pleasing masks that I wear, is, but in making that decision, I was afraid that I was going to hurt the feelings of others that were still drinking in my life. But fortunately, especially the guy that I live with, Joe, he's one of the best friends I've ever had in my entire life, because even in leaving that situation, he never judged me. He knew that wasn't anything personal against him. And he was super supportive of it. So, I was fortunate in my life to be able to have both sides being good friends, the side of friends that were sober, that didn't drink, and the side of my friends that were my drinking buddies that didn't have any issue or judgment with me wanting to just dip out for a little bit.
Yeah, I tell you, I drink 7 days a week for pain management. I wish I had painkillers, Tramadol or something like that. But it's tough to get away from it, especially when you have physical pain. But so Spanish, I really encourage you to go to a friend where there's no alcohol at their home and just hang out, because stick to water or soda or something like that, because it's poison, man.
Yeah, no, I agree. Sorry, Michael.
No, so Mike, tell me.
He dipped out. He hung up. I'm sorry.
Well, here's what I would say. Just so if you're still listening, Mike, and I think it's worth saying out loud. I'm really, and both of us, Spanish and I, are really good friends with the owners of Grassroots Kava House in downtown St. Pete. Actually, had some good conversations with them this week. And, one of the things, like places like Grassroots is an alcohol-free place. So I think about somebody like Mike who's got pain management, and I would never say replace alcohol with pills. You're just maybe, swapping out one demon for another. But to the point that Mike was making, and something that, you just talked about a minute ago, Spanish, is surrounding yourself in an environment where people are not going to be judgmental, and I know that's a challenge. I mean, it's been a challenge for me in my life where I've had to step away from people. Same thing, didn't want to disappoint them, but in hindsight, it was more, I think that was a coping mechanism a little bit. Oof. of just like, I don't want to disappoint them, so let's bust out the mezcal. Here we go, But Grassroots is an example of a place where you can go and, try Kava, a shell of Kava and feel how that feels, being a much more natural, better on the substances of your body that give you a replacement for alcohol. And again, they don't serve alcohol at Grassroots for a reason. So, when I go there, and I've talked to all the locals and the regulars, because it's such a great community there. These are all people, not all of them, but a lot of them are people who are there for that reason. They can't be in the presence of the addiction is too hardcore. So, again, Mike, if you're listening, seek out places like that. I would say to you maybe the similar thing that you said to Spanish.
Yeah, and in the regards to the pain, there's something that I've never talked about on air on any platform. has been that I got in a car. Well, I mentioned I got in a car accident years ago, Michael. I think it was like 2019. It was before COVID. I got T-boned, and I got a couple of herniated discs in my neck, and I was in pain every day until this past March, actually, when my drinking came to a head. And I got in trouble at work and almost lost everything a second time. And there's a guy by the name of Ian Beckles who brought me to lunch, and we had a conversation. And during that conversation, he said some very key things that I won't ever forget that are very personal to me. And I realized that it was in accepting certain parts of who I am, and not so much suck it up, but just, hey, this is it. I have a choice to make. I can either love myself and move on and show everybody that these things aren't a hindrance to me, or I can be overcome by them. And it was in the acceptance of certain parts of who I am and learning to move forward that pain went away. And I was able to stop drinking, and I was no longer relying on edibles or any of that stuff to help cope with the pain that I was experiencing in my neck that would radiate down to my buttocks. And that was a big deal because I used to think that I was going to be stuck with that pain forever. But I was fortunate in that way. So I don't know if anybody can use that in their own personal life, but that was something that I like I said, I thought for sure for the rest of my life I was going to be dealing with that pain that was in my neck.
It's fascinating to think about how, and thank you for sharing that, by the way, how when you change the mental, how that affects the physical.
Yeah.
And there's so many examples of how, a mindset shift can actually alleviate physical pain in your body. Now, that's not, well, I mean, look, I was going to say, that's not to say that, you don't need some sort of medical help or surgery or something like that. But there's a lot of data. There's a lot of science, because I know how much you love diving into that.
Yeah.
There's a lot of data that says any ailment you have in your physical body can actually be healed, not through meds or surgeries, but actually through just through how we change, how we approach that. So being able to, and that's really cool that Ian and you had that conversation that allowed you grace to look at yourself and have that level of love and acceptance for yourself, and what that did and how that showed up to alleviate physical pain. Like, to me, that's real, man.
Yeah. It not only was it real, but it's what the sentence that changed everything that day was, he said, hey, everybody makes mistakes. That doesn't make you a screw up. He used much more colorful language, but I had always considered myself just a screw up. There was no escape for me from being a screw up. And when I would look back on my life, there are numerous situations that I just self-sabotaged and destroyed because I thought that I was, not worthy of that. But just hearing another man he took me out to lunch and look me in the eyes and say that, and then, give me a hug afterwards, that just changed my whole perspective on who I was as a person. And, I didn't realize how much tension I was carrying in my neck and in the back of my, on the base of my skull. And I mean, it took about 2 weeks, but after that, for about 2 weeks, I could feel my muscles loosening up and everything loosening up. And now, like I said, I don't have any pain. So that was a big deal.
As a person who, I have not gone to a Western general practitioner in 11 years. Because it's just a mortifying experience the last time I went. And it was a cattle call. It was like, doctors get, from what I understand, I don't want to speak as a doctor.
Careful, they're going to kick us off the air if you say too much.
Whatever. But I mean, what I understand from a lot of the research that I've done is it's very much doctors are rewarded by how many patients they can see in a day. So it's a volume game. So what that looks like in real time is they are talking to you and trying to get you out of there quickly and find the quick fix for you so they can get to the next person. So I stopped going to Western medicine, and now my quote unquote doctor is an acupuncturist. Oh. So I look to her whenever I've got something going on, and it makes sense to the point of everything that we're talking about is that when when you're not your true self, when you're doing things like self-medicating to get through either physical pain or emotional pain or whatever, you know, if you can free up the energy in your body so that it flows free, it allows your body to do what your body knows how to do, which is heal itself. You know, and it's like you don't need to take a pill every time something bad is happening. You don't need to like do that. And again, I'm not a doctor. I'm not going to try to sit here and say that like, you know, somebody like that's not what we are. I don't claim to be that. So there's probably some doctor listening right now going, oh, doesn't know what he's talking about. You're right. I don't know what I'm talking about. But that said, it kind of makes common sense as human beings that this miracle that we have on two legs that all 8 billion of us get to walk around with, man, there's like a few billion years of like evolution that says, hey, you know what? Your body kind of can figure it out. There's something to that. So.
And you're right in the when you talk about letting that energy flow freely. That's the first time I could ever feel that that energy. But it took getting sober, so it took a big life event in March of stopping the self-medicating with booze. But it only took about, like I said, about 2 weeks of that to then feel that energy start to move from the base of my neck out through the bottom of my feet.
That's so awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. Let's do this. Let's jump to break. Our phone number, 1-800-771-1025, 1-800-771-1025. Another area that I think is worth exploring in this, just in this whole idea, this whole concept of how we as men show up, not as our true selves, is all the impact of all those societal and all that social media garbage that is just this, and again, I'm on Instagram and TikTok. You know, I encourage you every time we do this show to follow me or follow you. But just the reality of if all you do is compare yourself to what you see on social media, that is a recipe for disaster. 1-800-771-1025. It's Let's Get Real on 102.5 The Bone.